Hi, I'm Brittany Riley, and you're in the kitchen with Britt. Thanks for joining us. We're here at Home Appliance in Avon, Ohio, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a Rosemary Foccacia. And we're actually going to use the Thermador steam oven to help get a really nice crust, but still have a nice soft center. So I already have my yeast mixed in with some warm water. I use instant yeast usually. I like to be able to kind of see that foaming on the top and see that it's activating before I start going through the process. I've definitely run into using some old yeast and thinking that I did something wrong and ruined my bread, and come to find out the next time when I put it into the water to watch it, it really wasn't active. So I use instant yeast, and I'm gonna be posting the recipe. It looks kind of funky, 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. It's kind of a funny measurement, but that's actually what one of those packets is. So if you buy the packets versus a huge amount, one of those packets is exactly that amount. So that makes it easier. We are doing a blend of some whole wheat flour and some all-purpose. And also, when you look at the recipe, there's quite a bit of salt, and it might look alarming, but if you think about it, we have water, yeast, and 2 tablespoons of olive oil here. Other than that, all we have is flour. So we have to have something to flavor this. We're putting rosemary on the top and sprinkling some nice sea salt on the top, but other than that, our bread would be very bland without some salt. So it's a decent amount. Now this recipe makes an entire half sheet pan of focaccia, which, just by measurement, it's about 13 inches by 18. So that's a lot of bread. So when you think about 2 tablespoons over the course of all of that, that's a decent amount. Also keep that in mind. If you don't want that much bread, you might want to cut this recipe in half. If you have any of those quarter sheet pans, that's perfect, or even like a 13 by 9 pan. We're gonna start, I always start off with my paddle attachment, even though we're gonna be kneading this dough with the dough hook. It just helps to bring everything together at the beginning. So we're gonna pour all of our dry ingredients, which does include our salt, right in. We always use warm water when we're working with yeast because yeast really likes a warm environment. It helps to kind of wake it up and get it started. Like I said, we have a couple tablespoons of olive oil in here too. This is a good time to grab out a decent bottle of olive oil if you have some, just because, like I said, it's part of that flavoring and everything. I always add a couple teaspoons of sugar to this mixture, even though this isn't, a sweet yeast bread by any means. A couple teaspoons of sugar isn't gonna do anything as far as ruining the flavor, but it will feed our yeast also. So just gives it a good, healthy environment. We're gonna mix all that in and make sure you let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes before using it, just so that it's ready. And of course, scrape all that good stuff that might be stuck on the sides. And we're just gonna bring it together, like I said, with the paddle attachment. As soon as it kind of looks like it's struggling a little bit to keep up, that's when you wanna switch to your dough hook. So I'm gonna bring it together, and then we're gonna knead this dough for about 6 minutes with the dough hook after that. So kneading, if you're using a electric mixer, that's like number 4, number 6 at the most. We're not beating really fast. Think about the fact that if you were doing it by hand, you would be doing it at a normal pace. We don't want to go too much, harder on that dough than what we would do. So we'll go to like a number 4, and it'll take half the time of what it would take to do it by hand. But if you go beyond that, you're actually not gonna get the same product. So we'll do that, and we'll come back and talk about rising.
So you might not get as excited about bread dough as I do, but that looks beautiful. Basically 6 minutes, and we've got a nice elastic dough. It's a little tacky, but it shouldn't be wet by any means. So I put about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil into our bowl, and dough goes in the bowl with a towel over the top. It will double in size in about 2 hours. So that's how long we want to kind of set it aside. Make sure it's not, you don't have to go crazy about it or anything, but you don't want it to be maybe like right by your back door where it's a lot of cool air or something like that. a fairly warm environment is what will be best for it. So we're gonna set this aside for 2 hours. I'm gonna go over and chop up some rosemary that'll go on the top, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Well, our focaccia has definitely doubled in size. It's huge, it's awesome. Looks great. So what we're gonna do is I'm using that half sheet pan size, and I'm just kind of drizzling in, it's probably about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And I'll use my paper towel to just kind of spread that along. I do get the sides too because we don't want this to stick. And what we're gonna do is it does take one more stage of proofing, so it's not oven ready yet. What we need is to just kind of spread this out on our pan, and then we're gonna let this sit on our countertop for another 35 to 40 minutes. At this point, you know, you're not gonna be able to stretch it perfectly to fit every corner, but in this next proofing stage, it will kind of settle into those spaces. So we just do our best to kind of get the shape of the pan down at least, and then we'll come back and make it all fit and make it right. At this point too, it's nice and relaxed from being there for that 2 hours and everything, but see how it still kind of shrinks back. That's why it needs that extra time. Create some more air bubbles, and it's also developing flavor. The longer that different types of breads proof for, it's really developing flavor in that extra fermentation process. So we will leave this as good as we can get it, and we'll come back in about 40 minutes to finish up and get it in the oven. Look at this beautiful focaccia. So I did cover with saran wrap just so it didn't start to form any kind of a skin, but you can see it's moving much easier now. So I'm just gonna kind of fill the corners, press up against the side of the pan real quick. And then this is the part where we kind of create those little dimples in the bread. And basically just, you can use your whole hand and go all over the bread, get some dimples going. We're gonna brush this with some olive oil, and the olive oil will kind of pool in those spots, which is great. I'm gonna do that, sprinkle with some fresh chopped rosemary, and then a little bit of flake salt. I have the oven set, it's the steam combination oven, so I'll be imparting some steam throughout the process to get that nice crust, like I said. I set it to 450, and when I go to put this in the oven, I'm gonna bring it down to 375. So super hot oven, but then we're baking at a lower temperature, and it'll go in for about 20 to 25 minutes. And if you don't have steam at home, you're gonna do the exact same thing with the temperature and timing and everything. We'll just get a little bit different of a product because we have the lovely addition of the steam for our artisan bread. So little olive oil, rosemary, salt, oven. See you soon. This is like the best part, so we're gonna get it on video. You can't smell what I can smell, but at least you can see how gorgeous. I'm gonna let this guy stay in for maybe just another couple of minutes, and we'll come back and cut it up so we can see how beautiful it is on the inside. All right, so here's this delicious looking stuff. I'm gonna cut into it. It kind of broke apart over there, so I took a quick little sample, but check that out. That's awesome. Got a really nice rise. It's nice and soft and chewy and delicious. Enjoy.